Welcome back to Conversations That Matter. I'm your host, Ron Gray. We are back with dad and new author Steve Adams and special guest Dr. Pete Buecker for part 3 of our conversation about fatherhood after divorce. Steve's new book is called Now What? A Divorced Dad's Guide to Parenting Excellence. Get your copy at your local bookstore or at Amazon.com. Thanks for joining Conversations. About success, you talk about applying business principles to parenting. I found that interesting. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, accountability is the biggest component of that. You know, you have to set expectations just like you do on deadlines and budgets and forecast. You know, first quarter, second quarter. You know, the old corporate mindset. They set the bar higher every year. When you had a good year, next year has to be better.
You know they're going to throw it to you.
So you can use those principles. There are expectations. When Rachel went away to college, C's were not acceptable. Mm-hmm. She doesn't, I'm in a position, I'm blessed enough to where she doesn't have to go down there and grind and work and, and use that as a crutch because she should be making A's and B's, but she's working so much to get through college. No, that's not the case. All I want her to do is go down there what she went down there to do and finish what you started. So, I run my business very structured. I hold people accountable that I do business with. I'm very timely and consistent with my, with work ethic and business ethics and the way that I do things. And I expect the same out of my kids in terms of reciprocity.
Right.
If I'm going to give, I'm not going to throw it in your face, but if I'm going to give, I'm hoping as you mature that you recognize the things that have been done to get you to the finish line, and you abide by, my rules aren't really that strict. Just do the things that you're supposed to do. And nearly every time I hang up the phone with her when she's traveling or going on a trip or doing anything, I say, make good decisions. And she says, I always do.
That's great. Patience.
How much time you got?
that may be.
I do have a daughter, right? Patience. Right. Does that go in the same category? And you got two, so.
Yeah, patience is a hard one.
I know.
Yeah. You talk about small incremental consequences every day. Sometimes I think people get the wrong idea about consequences. There's good and bad consequences to our behaviors, right? So I think you talk in the book a little bit about just working towards those small incremental consequences of those good outcomes, those evidence of small little things that you're doing right. You're going to see those little incremental consequences every day.
Well, and people get so frustrated. They get so frustrated because they want immediate gratification.
Yeah.
And I think that's society. You think about it like,
it is our culture.
Oh gosh, you text someone and they don't text you back in a few minutes. You think they're pissed off at you.
Yeah.
No, they're busy. We've actually, that's a learned behavior. So it's not going to happen. And I had to pull back some of the old school kind of bring my mom and dad into it in terms of the ways that I was raised and use some of that, but not all of it because society's different. I'd love to have the 70s back.
Yeah.
When things were simple and you could leave your doors unlocked, but it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
But I've been very, very fortunate. I have, as I've gotten a little older, I have more humility in my life and more patience. And I think your patience improve as you see incremental progress. But it's not going to happen overnight. If people think that they're going to sign the divorce decree and their kids are just going to be warm and fuzzy, after a few weeks, man, they're going to be very disappointed. It's a process, and by process, I mean it has days that are just smooth sailing, and it has days where you're just, you don't know where to turn.
And that can apply to parenting in general, right? Whether you're in a divorce situation or you're still married
because we're all humans, and you can't control what your daughter, does. I mean, right out of the divorce, my daughter wasn't really talking to me. We talk about it in the book. Shut her door and was in her room, and I'm scratching my head, and I start thinking about some of my business principles, and I'm kind of aggressive, proactive. I said, well, that's not gonna work. This is unacceptable. So how do I have to change?
Yeah,
she's 15 or she's 13 or whatever. Over the years, it's not, that's normal for her. I have to make adjustments to make an impact. on her. So what do I have to do? I'm used to working and getting things done my way. And this was a little different because I was going to have to make adjustments to see the progress that I wanted, or I couldn't complain.
Yeah.
And that's when the vulnerability steps in. That's where the ego gets set aside. And that's where you have to realize, hey, you've got changes to make, Steve, or Pete, or, that's just how it is.
Yeah. These principles, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think of these throughout your book, how I can apply these to even my professional life with my employees in the office or my business relationships. These are just really powerful reminders to get back to some of the basics. Get back to some of the 1970s, sitting on the rocking chair on the front porch. These are the principles that we grew up on.
We're old,
right?
man. We're all old. We're getting old.
Exactly.
I think in business too, though, you keep a good eye on, here's things I'm putting in place for short-term results. Here's things I'm putting in place for long-term results. And a lot of times when it comes to other humans, like Steve said, it's a sort of instant gratification. Well, my kid's not doing what I wanted to do right now. Yeah, but this is not a sprint. This is a marathon.
Yeah.
So there are certain things they're only going to learn by your example.
Yeah.
And that's the long-term stuff, And there's certain things that and I still have to remind myself. I'm in my mid-40s now. Maybe upper mid-40s coming up. Yeah. But this is their first time through. They're just 12 and 15 this one time.
They're not supposed to know.
They're not supposed to know stuff. And when they were little, it's like, okay, yeah, she's 3 and she's 6. And this is the first time and the only time they're going to be those ages. And I keep having to remind myself over and over again, you expect them to know things. You go, oh, no, well, how are they supposed to know that? No one's told them, or I haven't shown them, or if they don't know it, then it's on me. It's not their fault for not knowing it.
Yeah.
And so I think that patience thing sometimes is it's really, really important, because I'm not, by nature, a really patient person.
Yeah.
And I really had to learn that, but they've been great teachers in that regard.
But imagine this. Imagine, we made reference to patience and, about how are they supposed to know this, and they're not. Imagine the lack of a father.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. Think about the lack of dad not being there.
Yeah.
I've had conversations with people that said their dad was never there on Christmas morning, or my dad was always drunk. He always stayed in the bars, or, he never even called me. He was never at any of my games. I've recently made friends with a girl in Chicago, and she writes for some online publication stuff, and we talk a little bit about it in there. And she said she don't always remember what kind of birthday cake she had or what presents she got. The one thing that she remembers more than anything in her childhood is looking up in those stands and seeing her mom and dad. Now, her dad be in a suit, tied be loosened, but they're rolling in on 2 wheels, but they showed up.
They showed up, yeah. That's good. That's good. You talk about the birthdays. I don't remember what I got for my birthday, but I always remember having a birthday party and having a cake. Always had a cake.
That's structure.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
it is.
the American way. It's consistency.
Yeah.
You should have consistency. I'm kidding.
I think it's in here somewhere, sprinkled all over. Talk a little bit about balance. I know we've hit on this a lot, but specifically the work-life balance. And we know it can be one of the greatest challenges.
It's the hardest.
Yeah, for really any professional, with or without kids. I've practiced a lot of conscious approaches to work-life balance in my 40s, and I'm creeping up there too in my, I don't know, I'm somewhere between the mid and the late. I don't know yet. I'm still a little bit of denial about that. But
hey, this is your show. We'll let you tell it any way you want.
What are the things that stand out to you in discovering a balance between work, your personal life, and fatherhood?
Well, balance is, everyone struggles with it. Any seminar you go to, any kind of sales seminar, any kind of infomercial, any kind of some of the things that are on social media, they're more freedom. They're trying to get your attention, because they know everybody struggles with balance. They're work, and corporate America is sucking you dry, and you're working all the time, and it's never enough. So I mean, that's very enticing to a lot of people to buy into. Oh, how do I subscribe? How do I go to this seminar? And he or she's gonna show me how to have more time at home because they know they're struggling with it, and I struggle with it in a big way, and still do at certain times.
Yeah, I
you
do
know,
too.
not I don't look back and say, man, what if the last 10 years I kept climbing? Doesn't interest me at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, because that is a mindset. You know, when people say, man, I have so many regrets and so many, you can't change that. You can't change those things. I mean, so you just got to move forward and just grind every day, and you know, try to utilize your time the best way you can that benefits the most people.
You've talked about structure some as well. That's one of your principles. You say in the book you can make excuses or you can make progress, but you can't make both.
That's a fact. You can. I mean, you can't. You know, you can't bellyache and you know, back to what Pete said, leading by example, and your kids pick up on those things, and you know, the next thing you know, you're seeing a lot of your characteristics through your kids.
Yeah.
Then they start implementing what you know, the same thing.
There's nothing more humbling than that.
No, I say,
nothing more humbling
you
than
know,
that.
Well, it's good when the good things are coming through, right?
yeah. It's been.
It's always an eye opener, though.
It is. No, it absolutely is. Just, you know, in terms of structure, I just try to stay as, and again, you know, my mom and dad play a big role in that. And for someone that may be listening or reading the book saying, well, I didn't have that. Well, okay, then step up.
Yeah.
Step up. Then you make up for lost time. Don't use that as a crutch and say, well, you know, Steve had this Cleaver family and everything was fine and I didn't have that, so what? So you're going to use the fact that you didn't have that structure in your childhood and you're going to penalize your kids and you're just going to pass that torch on to them. No, you're going to step up and you're going to grind that much harder to lead by example and, you know, and make them better and keep them on track and hold them accountable and set expectations. You know, the bellyache can only go so far with me. You know, I remember about the time that my father passed away, I divorced. And I thought that I was rock bottom. And my dad always said, when you think you're rock bottom, look below you and you'll see somebody. That's a fact. It can always be worse.
Yeah,
so it's a mindset. Make your decision, what you want to do. If you want to change the behavior of your kids, then step up. There's a price to pay for that. You know, your circle gets smaller. You may not make as much money. You have to position yourself and things are going to change and people are going to laugh and talk about you, and that's okay. Because chances are they're very envious. They just don't want to do it. You know, most people stay where they are because they don't want to rock the boat.
They don't want to do the hard work.
And it's hard work. They think their career's hard.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I said in the book also. Raising kids isn't rocket science, it's harder.
Yeah. Your quote reminded me of something that I've read from Brene Brown. You can be comfortable or you can be courageous, but you can't be both.
Right?
Yeah.
No, that's right.
I think structure is what, in part, has helped me have the kind of work ethic that I do, kind of commitment to relationships and friendships, because my parents and my family always really foster that by example, really. And I think that's again, these principles, when you guys are living them before your kids, you're instilling it in them without them even knowing it.
You have to, or you can't complain about their outcome.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
You know.
I'll tell you what, like I said, you don't have to be perfect at these, and nobody is.
No.
But I tell you what, I know when I'm falling short.
Yeah.
Because they show it to me, not because they're being bratty or difficult,
Yeah.
but because I notice, like Steve said, you see it in your kid, you go, oh yeah, well
You got out of your lane a little bit.
the only reason that's happening is because I didn't do what I was
That's
supposed to do, right? Yeah,
Right.
Because they've grown accustomed to that. And then when you fall a little short, I mean, you know, we're all our worst critic. So you look up and you're like, daggone, but we're all human. You know, no one's perfect at doing it, but you have to make the most effort you possibly can every single day. Not once a month or on their birthday or Christmas morning, rolling in being dad of the year. It's an everyday
Those
thing.
are the days that matter. Those are the days that define who they will become.
it's the consistency thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, this leads right into judgment. You write about judgment in the book as one of the principles, and you say that you're constantly setting examples for your kids, whether they're good examples or bad examples.
I do. I mean, and it's not, I'm not trying to say, hey, look at me, I've got all the answers. I sure as hell don't have all the answers, but I mean, I've had a little success, and we've kind of put them together here and put them in ink, and so I think that when you're leading by example, you have to make good judgment calls, holding the door, for when you see somebody. Struggling, and that's one of 1,000 examples. I don't want to digress into a lot of that, but I just think that I use good judgment, and if my ex-wife comes down on the kids or when they were younger in terms of discipline, I reinforce her decisions. I mean, if it's warranted, I'm not going to say, well, just stay with Dad for a couple of weeks. We'll take care of that. We'll show your mom. No, absolutely not. I may not always agree, but we're going to talk it out, and sometimes it's through text correspondence. We don't do a lot of phone conversations, and that's okay.
Yeah, whatever works.
And in terms of correspondence, to make sure that we're on the same page of taking away a phone or taking away a video game or grounded, go to your room for doing this or doing that. And I'm not a one-upper. There's a lot of that goes on out there, and you see it on social media. I mean, you just have to use your best judgment based upon what you see.
Yeah, I mean, how do you want your kids to remember you? I mean, that's such a great guidepost for me. It's kind of like, and the other thing with it's like, again, judgment. It's not about being perfect. Nobody's perfect. When you make a mistake, you own it.
Yeah.
And you let the kids know, or I from my standpoint,
I
love my kids. I love my kids know. I screwed that up, and I'm sorry. And what do I need to do to make it right? The other thing is just that the kids know. This goes back to priority. The kids know that they're the priority. And not that the kids should be in charge. I don't think that the monkey should run the circus, so to speak. But I do think, whatever that saying is, I may have just totally massacred that. But anyway, the tail doesn't need to wag the dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just incorporate 2 or 3 of those together.
That's throw them all together. That's right. That's the way I do it.
Yeah. You'll have everybody confused.
That's right. But the tail doesn't need to wag the dog. Let's say that.
Right.
But
I think we get that one.
At the same time, that they do know that they are a big consideration in things that you do. And I think for me, that's been a great guidepost as far as what my judgment has been over time. And again, I've screwed things up and made bad choices
we all have.
and whatever. But at the same time, then you come back and go, that happened. It wasn't the best choice. And, and I just wake up today and do better,
Well, I think, again, that you've alluded to this a couple of times, that we're not supposed to be perfect, and parents oftentimes feel like they are they're pulled to that level of expectations, sometimes by society, sometimes by only self-induced expectations.
It's both.
But yeah, it is. And again, I'm not a parent, but I have a lot of people in my life that are, and I have a lot of nephews and nieces. So a lot of these
Very observant,
parallel principles to my relationship with those parents and my relationship with my nephews and nieces. But I'm telling you, I keep going back to these principles. It is, I feel like it's almost like a pathway to wholeness. When people are feeling empty and feeling broken, like I've made so many bad mistakes as a parent, stop trying to be perfect. Stop putting that expectation on yourself. You think you've jacked up your kids. If you don't start new today, they're going to be jacked up.
Well, and that's
because you're not going to start over. You got to start over every day. And these, I think, stop worrying about being perfect. Be whole. These are a pathway to wholeness.
And no one should be passing judgment on them.
No.
That's another. That falls under the judgment as well. I mean, it may be a different direction.
Self-judgment.
Self-judgment.
Yeah. It's debilitating.
Someone that just says, you're not. I can't believe you're doing that. I never pass judgment on anyone's situation because I've either seen or done it all over the last decade. Trying to get my kids where they are now.
Right.
So nothing surprises me. And nothing's embarrassing about where you are, and with credit, or they've lost a job, or they're Just numerous things that play into all of it. Stress, and they cut overtime out, or I hate my job, I'm working all the time, I can't spend time with my kids. And that's normally when I go directly into positioning. You have to position yourself better, but it's going to require a whole lot. And there's going to be some sacrifices, and you're going to pay the price. But it all boils down to one thing: how bad do you want it? Mm-hmm. How bad do you want to improve that relationship with your son and your daughter, or both?
Let's talk about one of the last principles here: consequences. You talk about in your book that if you say everything is going to be okay to your kids, and you give them a reason to doubt or question it, then the consequences ensue.
Well, that's the mixed signals that I made reference to. Absolutely. Yeah. Here we go again. That's exactly what I thought Dad was going to do. That's what I thought Mom was going to do. And they all, consistency is kind of woven through all of these. If you really think about it, there are consequences. There's penalties. I guess you would say, there's parental penalties. If you tell them one thing and then you cancel or you don't show up, and you hear a lot of that. I know a lot of kids that stay home by themselves most of the time, and it's heartbreaking to me. To know that the dad isn't present, chooses not to be present in some cases. The system and legislation is a whole nother topic. But I'm just saying that.
Got a lot of work to do there.
Yeah, I'm just saying that to put every father in the same cup of soup.
Right.
When you got committed guys, not just like me or not just like Pete. There's a lot of guys out there that their number one priority is the well-being of their kids, to have their kids grow up to be well-rounded adults, and really not have a lot of damage and carnage from the divorce. But there's that stigma, that black cloud that is over your head, and it's pretty gratifying to kind of prove a lot of people wrong that think you're going to fall on your face, because there's a lot of that out there of, he's never going to be able to do this, and and he's going to be that dad that that rolls in and out and drives them through the drive-through and drops them off and goes back to the office. Well, there's going to be changes. If you expect to see results, it's like going out on the basketball floor and not going to practice. Well, you suck. Well, you haven't been to practice in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
There's no difference.
Yeah.
You have to stay consistent and just grind, even on the days you don't want to.
And also, though, to that point, I've seen a lot of examples where, and I think, there may be people that come to this book who go, crap, the last 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, I would like to have a do-over. And the other point I want to make is it's never too late. Like growing, my parents were divorced when I was an infant. I have no memories of my parents together at all. And my dad and I had a strained relationship for a lot of years, and it was in college. I was in college, really, when we struck up which turned out to be a really meaningful. Now, he was consistent. I had visitation and that kind of stuff, but he was kind of battling his own demons for a lot of years. Yeah. So I knew that he cared about me. That was important. But we did not have what I would classify as a close relationship until I was really in college. And he reached out, and it started with, hey, it's Christmas, can I take you to lunch? Yeah. And the next Christmas, hey, it's Christmas again, can I take you to lunch? Yeah. And the next Christmas, hey, it's Christmas again, can I take you to lunch? Hey, maybe we can get together before next Christmas. Yeah. How about your birthday?
Sure.
And literally over the course of a handful of years, I'm like, oh, this is a very different guy than I remember, and now he's one of the people I call when I want an honest opinion about something. I don't want fluff. I don't want what I want to hear. I want somebody to shoot me straight.
But he put in the time.
He's the one to call it. But he put in it.
That's right.
It was important enough to him to keep reaching out to me when I didn't necessarily, want or need to hear from him in my mind. And so that means a lot. Like the effort it takes, and I've got friends. I'm sure Steve has people. I'm sure you know people where they do that. Like at some point they go, oh crap, I'm not in my kids' lives. I need to figure this out. And it just, and I even another friend of mine who went through a divorce. His kids were a little old, teenager, kind of age, by all accounts, their opinions of him was kind of soured by their mom.
Yeah.
And they didn't talk to him for a long time through no real particular fault of his own, as far as I can tell,
Yeah.
Right.
But what I do know is that he texted them every week, each of them individually, sent emails, sent them birthday cards. He's like, I don't know if they get them or not, but I'm going to keep sending them.
Yeah.
And it took a few years of time, but one of them reached out and they went to lunch, and then they went out a couple more times, and the other one said, well, if you're going out with them and it's okay, maybe I'll do something too. And now he's got all 3 kids in his life again. But
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it took time.
What a great story.
But it's consistency, it's caring. And sometimes, when kids like this, Steve tells the example of the kid whose dad, said, well, I've been working really hard for 4 weeks and he won't talk to me, whatever it was, 2 weeks, whatever.
Yeah. And he was just pissed off.
Yeah, pissed off, whatever. But sometimes, the kids, especially teenagers, and we've all done this, put yourself in their shoes. I mean, sometimes they're giving you the stiff arm to see how hard you want to work.
Yeah.
They're testing you.
Yeah.
Like,
are you serious?
How important is it this time? Because I gave you all these chances for the first 13 years, and you kept telling me you were going to do stuff, and you didn't show up. So if that's your case, fine. We all make mistakes. Like you said, every day you start anew. It's what you do today that matters. So if it matters to you, then do it. But you might have to do it every day. And like these 8 things, like you don't do them one day and go, okay, I'm the father of the year. You got to keep showing up and doing these things to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
And for years and years and years.
Yeah. So I think it's a message. It's a call to action for dads everywhere, for people really everywhere, but for dads. But it's also a message of hope. Okay, well, look, if you haven't been doing things to your liking, or you think you need to step up your game, great. Here's a blueprint.
Yeah.
Start today.
Yeah.
Start every day. Write these things on your wall. I mean, literally, write these things on a list. I have lists all over my house and my office of things I want to remember every day to remind myself. Put these things on a piece of paper, put them on your wall, and go, okay, yeah, those are the things I need to be doing today. Yeah, it matters.
To wrap it up, let's talk about briefly social media and how it can be used to our advantage as fathers or as detriment, especially in a divorce situation.
It's
how you manage it is the reward.
It's
right?
a tough thing. I mean, it's a powerful tool, a networking tool. I utilize it from a business standpoint, but I caution and I pray that every mom and dad and anyone for that uncle, aunt, doesn't matter who it is, would just keep a lot of their personal lives to themselves and and not use that as a tool just to vent and to get sympathy and likes and comments, people jumping on your bandwagon, and it looks so desperate and whiny, and we talk about that a little bit, and just I think of course the social validation aspect of the entire business model was designed to capture as much of your time as they can.
Yeah.
And the question I always propose people, actually 2 questions. Number 1, I've asked it and I've thrown it out there before. If social media was $1 a month, would you pay it? No, hell no, I'd never pay for it, really. I mean, because chances are you're probably addicted and don't realize it.
Right.
Think you're not addicted to that? Think you're not addicted to your cell phone?
Yeah.
You're scurrying around trying to find it and your kid's running out in the road. So, I mean, don't say you're not addicted to it.
Right.
And I think it's something you've got to be very, very careful with, and just refrain from, your daughter's on there, your son's on there, their teachers are on there, their friends are on there, and you're on there just ranting about how bad your ex-spouse is, be it the husband or be it the wife, it doesn't really matter, or anybody in their life. It's embarrassing. So out of respect, stay the hell off of it with that. It's that simple. It infuriates me when I see, because I know it embarrasses kids in a big, big way. and I researched this for a long, long time. You can go on there and kind of bounce around and find out where they go to school, and then, then go on and see what kind of teachers are, it's just a big, big, powerful network. And once it's on there, you can't get rid of it. It's out there because Billy sent it to Sally, that sent it to Debbie in California, that sent it to Canada, and at that point, it's out there, and the majority of times,
You can't take it back.
well, and the majority of times, people say, "Daggone, I wish I wouldn't have posted that."
Yeah, I think the criteria I use now, whether it's my social life, I've never really been someone to vent out loud anyway. I keep my personal business
That's
personal. That's just my personal
No, that's
preference.
me. I mean, yeah.
But like with social things, particularly I think for dads, we haven't really got it. It's maybe a whole nother show or two about dating, as a single dad. But that stuff, I mean, my criteria is this something I want my kids to see? Because whether they have accounts or not,
That's perfect.
I'll tell you what, they're watching. They're watching.
They are. Every move you make.
Yeah, and I learned that the hard way a couple of times,
Yeah.
and just had to say, okay, if I'm not sure, if I can't look at something or see a picture of myself or whatever, and I'm not sure that I want them to know this or see me in this way, it doesn't go on
Doesn't
there.
go.
And the social media privacy settings, like I don't let anybody tag me in a post where it shows up on my timeline, because I know they're watching. People are watching. Now there's some professional considerations there too, but there's some little things you can do that go a long way. But their opinion, you have one chance in life. I mean, over the course of time. But you kind of can get one chance at an opinion of you.
Biting your tongue and refraining on social media is difficult.
That's right.
I understand. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
But you said bite your tongue quite a bit. Consistently biting your tongue is not a bad thing.
No, absolutely not. No, stay consistent.
Right. Well, this has been a real honor for me to get to read your book.
Thank you so much.
And get to have this in-depth conversation.
I enjoy this.
Watch a Divorced Dad's Guide to Parenting Excellence. Do you have a website or any kind of information people can follow?
Well,
when it does come out?
that's coming real soon.
Okay,
with that.
good.
We're right on the brink.
And we'll share that information.
Sure.
When it finally leaves the warehouse, and that way people can get their hands.
We're
on
really
it.
excited.
I'm sure it'll be on Amazon.
Barnes & Noble, ButlerBooks.com,
Good.
SteveAdamsBooks.com. So several outlets. There'll be some local small bookstores that are still kind of brick and mortar.
Yeah.
I'm excited about a few book signings there, and
Yeah.
we're doing some
Good.
of that stuff.
And we'll share that when it comes time.
Awesome.
Too. Yeah. Hopefully the next few weeks.
Soon.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Pete Buecker.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And
Pete, it's always good to see you, man.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah.
And Steve Adams, you have written a book not only for divorced dads, but dads in general, and folks that really want to get back to the basics, the principles of life that makes us better. And you pick up a copy. So
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining part 3 of my conversation with Dad and new author Steve Adams. Get your copy of Steve's new book, Now What? A Divorced Dad's Guide to Parenting Excellence. You can pick it up at your local bookstore or on Amazon.com. It'll make a great gift for any dad out there.